and every story can change the world. Together we are Global Speakers Talk.
Hi guys, thank you for joining me, and I hope that you're all well today. I guess my real question is to anyone who's watching this is, do you feel like you're invisible online? Do you feel like when you post your message or you set up your profile, do you feel like it's incredibly hard for anyone to see you, or maybe you're not quite sure how to put yourself out there? Well, one of the reasons for that is it's not as easy as you think, right? And there's a real difference between sort of coaches and marketers and business owners and the sorts of people that putting themselves out there: type A, type B, introvert, extrovert, Coach Carter, Wolf of Wall Street. And what you tend to find is actually most coaches, most small business owners are very comfortable when it comes to the business side, the coaching side, but maybe not so confident when it comes to the marketing side. And that's why you have that feeling of maybe being invisible online, or not quite sure how to put yourself out online. So I guess that comes back to an even bigger question. How do you do it? How do you promote yourself as a coach, as a small business, as a solopreneur, anyone, to actually gain traction online? Well, I can tell you, it's maybe not what you think it is. So when you start, you tend to look at the gurus, or you tend to look at AI or a good starting point, and all of that leads to advice to try and get you to go viral. Advice to try and get you to go as viral as possible, to try and appeal to as many people as possible. And if you're a guru or you're an influencer or someone, that will work for them. They need to have vanity metrics. They need to have as many people as possible look at their content to gain as much traction as they can. However, as a coach, as a small business owner, as a solopreneur, actually, your content needs to work a little bit differently. It doesn't need vanity metrics. It doesn't need hundreds of thousands of seeing it. It needs a very, very small amount. So I guess the real question is, how do you do it? What do you post? So let's come back around to that question. When most people start, they tend to talk about how great they are, how much money they've got, how great their career was, how flashy and how amazing their life has been. And actually, like I said, if you're a guru or an influencer, that will work, right? However, like you'll notice that it doesn't quite work if you're a coach or you're a marketer, if you're a coach or you're a solopreneur. And there's a reason behind that. You'll look on LinkedIn every day and you'll notice that people are posting infographics. One of those posts has as much stuff as humanly possible squeezed into a square, posted online for everyone to see. And you'll notice that when they post it, it will get 200 likes, lots of reposts, right? But likes don't equate for money. Likes don't equal money. They're vanity metrics. So lots of likes, lots of reposts, lots of comments, but not lots of DMs, not lots of conversations. So don't post infographics. Don't worry about the carousels. Don't worry about all the stuff that the gurus and influencers will say. What you need to post is your story. But even more particular than that, what kind of story do you post? Because like I said, you don't want to post about how great you are. You need to post a certain type of story to resonate with a potential client. So when a client sees your post, or when anyone sees your post, they're going through a crisis or they're going through a problem. And what they need is for someone to solve that problem. It's for someone to help them in need when they're there. No one goes online, no one types into Google, I need a life coach. No one types in, I need a sobriety coach. No one types in, I need a dating coach. That's not what happens. But you'll see that everyone on LinkedIn or X or Instagram sets themselves up as that. But what people do search for are problems that they need to be solved, and really specific questions. So instead of I need a sobriety coach, it will be I need to get sober in 28 days. Instead of a diet coach or a dietitian, I need to lose this amount of weight to fit into my wedding dress. And that is how hyper specific you need to be in terms of your profile and your post. Instead of trying to appeal to everyone, like a general life coach, for example, you need to hyper niche that right down to something small and very specific to trying to get to appeal. So your first question you ask yourself is, surely I'd lose more clients if I niche down, if I go from like a generalist to a specialist. Well, actually, there was an ICF study in 2025, and it said that specialists earn 30% more than generalists. So actually, if you are hyper niched, then you can increase your prices, you become more exclusive, and there's that scarcity effect where you're fewer of you, less competition. So actually niching down is so incredibly important. But what to niche down with? And again, that leads back to how do you put yourself out online, that bigger picture. I firmly believe that in personal branding and working online in this business space, actually your niche sometimes finds you. If you'd have said, Greg, 2-3 years ago, that the main niche I'd have in terms of my life coaching would be relationships, or I would be a business and coach mentor, I'd have laughed you out of the park. But it finds you. And this is the hard part that nobody understands. It doesn't find you because of success. It finds you because of failure, because you've been wounded, because you've overcome something. And I'll come into that again. Remember that bigger question. How do you promote yourself online? How do you talk about yourself online? It's not what you think. So the idea of story selling within this, we touched on storytelling and the fact that you've got to tell your stories. Stories sell 22 times better than any facts. They're 22 times more memorable than any fact you can give. So stories are the key to this. But what ones do you say and how do you say it? Remember I said that if you talk about how great you are, it will repel. So you've got to talk about somewhere you failed, struggled, and overcome it in terms to help others. So let's look at that again. Carl Jung, a long time ago, had this idea of the wounded healer. The idea that if you've struggled or failed or something's not quite worked for you, you've created your own strategy to overcome it, inspired by overcoming it, to pass that information onto someone else. So you've survived the crisis. And remember that word crisis. So what every potential client is looking for, they're not looking for life coach. They're not looking for something which is really vague. They're looking for a guide to help them through a crisis. So if you've survived that crisis and you come up with a strategy to overcome it, and you talk about it in a way where you talk about how you survived it, how you've helped others survive it, you do something very special, which is called resonating. Your clients need to resonate with your material. They don't need to be wowed like they are with the infographics and the vanity metrics. Likes aren't money. But what resonating do when someone sees themselves in your story, when someone can put themselves in your shoes and picture it, it does a very, very different thing to your content, to your profile, to your brand, to everything. And I've got a really quick and easy way for you to think about this in terms of the content that you write in your profile. It's called the holiday test. So you'd imagine that you're on holiday in a faraway land, somewhere hot and sunny, and you're sat downstairs in the lounge and you're eating your breakfast. Or you'd imagine that you hear someone who's got the same language as you, same accent, same cadence, and you have that feeling that overcomes you, that feeling of you want to know who this person is, how did they get here, why are they here, I want to get to know them. And that should be the basis behind all of the content that you write, how you pitch your own profile. So again, instead of stop saying about how great I am, this is what I've achieved, this is my medals, this is my qualifications, lead with vulnerability. Lead with when you failed and you overcome it. That's how you pass the holiday test. So if someone's going through a crisis, they've been cheated on, they're in debt, they've got a gambling problem, they're an alcoholic, they have a business issue, whatever it might be. They don't search for a coach who can help them like that, or a business that can help that. They go into Google, or they go into AI, or they look up for real specific content with certain questions. Your niche, your brand, your profile, your content needs to answer the questions that these people are searching for. It's the idea of positioning yourself as the guide and not the hero. So I'd say for all of you that have that big question, how do I position myself? How do I market myself? How do I talk about myself online? What content do I create? How do I do it? Whatever you do, don't overuse AI. AI is far too glossy, far too shiny, and far too happy. And it doesn't quite resonate. It might get the vanity metrics, it might get all that sort of stuff. But what it's not going to do is pull on the heartstrings. What it's not going to do is have that effect, that resonating feeling to pass the holiday test in which you need. So to answer that big question, you must lead with vulnerability. You must go back to your story and really dive deep into it. Where did I fail? Where did I wound? But where did I bounce back from, and what did I learn from it to pass on to each other? That is the message that you need to create in your content, that it needs to be there in your profile to help other people. If you lead with that, if you create all of your content, all of your reels, your newsletter, hyper-specific, niched, you'll talk to people. People will reach out to you and they'll ask you, I'm going through the same problem that you did. I need help overcoming it. So I guess one of the big final messages that I want to give you, if you try and appeal to everyone, you'll talk to no one. If you try to appeal to the smallest viable option, if you try to appeal to your own kind, the people that have got a similar story to you, the people that have gone through a crisis that you've gone through, you'll have conversations. The only metric that you need to measure as a coach, as a solopreneur, as a similar online business, isn't vanity metrics. It's not ad spend. It's not profile views. It's conversations. And the greatest way to create conversations is to create content that resonates and pulls on the heartstrings of the people watching it, not the one that positions yourself as the hero. You have to position yourself as the guide. So I guess what I'm really trying to say, if you're struggling with your content, if you don't quite know how to position yourself online, what you need to do is you need to turn your own message into a business. You need to turn your own message, your own experiences, and you need to lead with that. That is how I would solve that big problem. And I hope that helps you, and I hope that gives you exactly what you need to help you on your way. If you want to find out more about what we do, we have a free podcast, which is called The Coach Trap. You can find us on YouTube. I have a newsletter, which you can find on our website at www.coachtrap.co.uk. Or I would say maybe the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So Greg Styan. I hope you enjoyed the chat. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you maybe made you think about your own business and how you position yourself on LinkedIn or whatever social media profile it might be. And if I was going to give you any advice, any take homes, do the exact opposite of what the guru says you need to do. If they say you need to go viral, you don't. What you need to do is you need to pull on the heartstrings and you need to resonate with the few. If you try to talk, appeal to everyone, you talk to no one. If you talk to the smallest viable option and niche down, you'll have conversations, I promise you. And whatever you do, don't fall into the coach trap.
Together we are global speakers talk.